And now, Ajahn, we would like to request for the 3 refuges and 5 precepts.
Very good. Okay, I say that I will do the Namo Tassa 3 times and then you repeat after me. So I do it 3 times and then you do it after me. Namo Tassa. Hang on. I do it first and you forgot already.
Listen to instructions.
Yeah. No, it's all right. You just used to do it some one way. So my way is that we do it first and then you follow after me. So I do it 3 times and then you follow. Let's do it do it again. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
And then we go into the refuge, and we do one at a time. And please repeat after me. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Dhammang saranang gacchāmi.
Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Sanghang saranang gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchāmi.
Ti saranagamana nittitaṃ.
Amabhante.
Very good. And then we go to the precepts. Pāṇātipāta veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Pāṇātipāta viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Adinādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Adinādāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Kāmesu micchācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Kāmesu micchācara viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Musavāda veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Musavāda viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Sura meraya maccapamaratthāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Sura meraya maccapamaratthāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
Imani pancha sikkhapadani silena sukhating yanti silena bhoga sampada silena niputing yanti tasma silang visodaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Very good. And then I think we do Metta Sutta in English. This is just a tradition for the Bodhinyana monks. Quite often we just used to do in the Metta Sutta in English. So here we go. Let's do Metta Sutta in English. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that their wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. With a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And now, Ajahn, we would like to request that you guide us in the guided meditation.
Okay, so let's do guided meditation. First key thing always in a guided meditation these days is to make sure that your phone is turned off or it's silent. Somebody's going to get almost too enlightened and your phone goes off. Terrible. So please check it on silent if you have any doubts. But then if you're doubtless, then make sure you're comfortable enough. We won't be sitting long, 10 to 15 minutes. So don't fear. It's not going to be very, very painful. So close your eyes and just feel your body. How does your body feel today? Week is coming to an end. Is it tired? A bit stiff here and there. So make sure your body is comfortable enough. And then just breathe into the body and breathe in a little bit deeper than you would normally. Just breathe in this kind of relaxed breaths. And allow the body to relax more. Breathe into the stomach. Breathe in kindness and letting go. And anything is tension, just breathe it out. Make sure your stomach is nice and soft. Just keep feeling the body as a whole. Body indicates what's happened in your mind. How does your body really feel? Then relax your body even more. Allow your shoulders to drop. Sometimes we don't even notice how tense our shoulders are. Allow the back to find its natural curvature. No need to be too stiff. Just keep breathing into the body. We can even look at the different parts of the body and give them specially kindness. If you feel your right leg all the way from the pelvis down to your toes underneath, and you imagine it in your mind and give your right leg all the kindness you have. And the same with your left leg. Give it kindness and relaxation. Think of your left leg. Feel what it feels as a whole. Allow it to relax. Relax. Your head, same with your whole pelvis, your bone and the muscles and the bum and everything. Allow it to find its natural way of sitting there. And again, look into your tummy for a little bit longer and just feel how the breath goes in and out your stomach. Give your stomach all the relaxation and kindness you can. And same with your lower back and the middle back. Allow it to find its own natural way of sitting there and give it all the kindness you have. And slowly you'll be moving up towards the upper back, your shoulders. Your right shoulder is almost pulled down by your right hand, and the right shoulder relaxes even more. Allow it to relax, relax. Same with your left shoulder. Your left shoulder is almost feels like it's being pulled down by left hand. And your neck might be tired. It's been holding up the heavy head whole week. Just allow your neck to relax. Just allow the body to breathe. Just see the movement in the body while it's sitting there. Your right hand is naturally resting on your lap, and the fingers are curving very softly. Give all the kindness you have to the fingers on your right hand, the whole arm, right arm. Same with your left hand, with the left fingers. Allow it to relax. Left hand is sitting very naturally, resting on your lap or on the chair. And the whole body from the neck down feels like it's supporting itself in the sea of kindness. The body is just breathing and naturally holding itself up. And if you feel your face, that's what really indicates how you feel. What does your face feel like? Is there worry there? Softness, relaxation? Tension on your face? Allow the face, all the muscles around your face to relax. You can think of yourself looking into a mirror, seeing yourself, and look at it with kindness and compassion. When you have a compassionate face on your face muscles, it just feels nice. We all suffer in the world, so we have this compassion arises very naturally. And through this compassion, you breathe in and out for a while. Just look at the breath with compassionate eyes. However the breath appears, whether it's in your body moving in and out, or it's right in front of you, just keep looking at it with kindness. We're getting close to the end of the meditation, so for a little while, keep watching that movement of the breath with kindness a little bit longer. Brighten up the mind for a while. And then move your attention back to the body. Can you see positive changes on your body? What has happened? Just by sitting quietly for a while. Does your body feel a little bit more relaxed than it was when we started? Does it almost feel like it's a little bit healthier when you allow it to relax? What about your mind? Is your mind a little bit more relaxed, kind, spacious? Almost healthier after allowing it just to be? I will now ring the bell 3 times and then listen those 3 times to the end, and then you can open your eyes and come back to the world. Very good. Did I break the thermos? How does it work? Oh, I opened the wrong thing. Double in. Very good. Did you introduce me already? So you know who I am. That's good. I wish I would know. I keep looking inside of me and I was like, I don't know who I am and what I'm doing most of the time. Oh, maybe I should read that, yeah. So it's so nice to be back here in Buddhist Fellowship, and what a beautiful center you have. These compliments for everybody who's been part of it. It's such a wonderful effort. It makes me happy that I didn't have to be part of this project. So I've done enough building work for other Buddhist places that I know how much what the problems arises with these things. But so it's a wonderful effort, and it's such a beautiful place. I'll just quickly get my computer. Ajahn Brahm just was here, as a lot of you saw him when you had the opening ceremony, and he came back to Perth during the Vasa, and he said such a wonderful place you built here in Buddhist Fellowship here in Singapore. He was really impressed about this. So really nice, and it's nice for you to invite me. So I'm happy to be back. I went to the old center a couple of times, and I'm just now returning. I went to Indonesia. I did a little bit of teaching there. I did the Katina ceremony there. It's the Katina season, so monks, it's almost like a part of our duty. We have to go out or do all these Katinas. So I was invited to Indonesia, and so it was nice. Obviously, we did our Vasa rains retreat in Perth, in Porignana, and then we did our Katina, and then we started getting all these invitations to other places. So I went to Indonesia, I did in Jakarta, I did a few, and I thought it was just one, but they kept taking me to these other temples. I was like, why are we going there? Oh, Bante, there's a Katina ceremony. It was like, oh, thank you for letting me know. So you just go and see all these ceremonies. But it's nice. I mean, look, they don't have enough monks, and it also brings this joy into for everybody for this season. And it is what the Buddha said, after the rains retreat, we have time to practice, but then it's almost like we should go out and see everybody. And that's what we're doing now. So I was invited to give a talk here. And I just lost the title, but I can just talk about anything. Now, it's something like, little by little, the pot is filled, I think. And I thought it was a nice title. And it does come from the Dhammapada, and I was just read through the Dhammapada verse, and then I can just keep talking from whatever comes to my mind. So the Dhammapada verse, which is obviously that's been referred to, is, think not lightly of goodness that it won't come back to you. The pot is filled with water, falling drop by drop. The attentive one is filled with goodness, piled up bit by bit. And the combining the joining verse with it is like it's a pair, and it's the same thing about not so good things. Think not lightly of evil, that it won't come back to you. The pot is filled with water, falling drop by drop. The fool is filled with wickedness, piled up a bit by bit. So I think that's enough. So the two words it's good to mention there is the pāpa and punya. So those are the Pali words. And I think you can move that. So in Buddhism, everything as Buddhists, we understand a lot of the things when we do actions, we talk about kamma. We're creating karma. It's like you can sometimes translate kamma as work. When you do work, you get the results. So we do punya kamma and do the pāpa kamma. That's what is talked about here with those pot is filled trip by trip. And we never know really when it's going to be overflowing, and the overflowing would be then obviously that refers more into being enlightened. You're really on the path. Until then, we just keep dropping. We need to make sure that the water keeps going into that pot. We don't know. It's above our head almost. That's how I feel like in this saying, that we don't actually see the pot. We don't really know what's going in there. We don't have enough mindfulness. We just sort of guesstimating through our life. And it's like we're trying to aim ourselves being good people. Keeping our sila, our kindness, is a really big thing. And you just keep letting that things drop into that pot, and eventually it will overflow. Eventually we reach what the Buddha was talking about. But until then, we try to do that, allowing it to fill the pot slowly, slowly. And it must overflow at some point, right? It must. It has to. That's just how it works. When you fill something, it overflows. And what we try to do is make sure that if we fill it with more and more good things, these are the punyas, the goodnesses, the good kamma. And we don't really sometimes, it's hard to see the results of results of good and bad. Only if somebody who's really far in the path, they can see somebody's kamma. But for us, I don't barely understand my own kamma. How does it work? Why do I get these things? What happens to me? But don't think too much of it. Don't make a big storyline about who you are. even your karma, it belongs to you. That's what you inherit from life to life, but it's not everything you are. But what we try to do is we lean towards seeing the good things in life. Quite often, when we talk about karma, the natural thing for us to think is all these bad things had happened. But most of this time we good. So we're trying to change our perception to start leaning towards the goodness. Try to like put down those like the sort of unwholesome things. Papa, you could translate it as bad. It's very, you could literally translate it, Papa as bad, you do bad karma. But it really, what it means, it's like unwholesome actions, not so wise. Buddha always talking about wisdom. So wisdom is kindness. So if you're unwise, if you act unkindly, you're acting with unkind speech, bodily actions, or with your mind. You're coming from bad place, so to speak, or unwholesome place. You're not skilled enough. Your kindness is not that level yet. And again, don't worry about it too much. Somebody like Buddha had a lot of compassion. He had compassion, which all the actions he came from, what he did came from a just place of compassion. Us, we just try our best. But when you start leaning towards that, your actions, your karma becomes more and more purified, so to speak. To think about karma, and I always like the simile what the Buddha was saying about the karma. It's like a salt. If you put a salt into a cup, you can really taste the salt. It just reminds me, because I have a coffee here, and I was one time, I was in this Vietnamese temple, and they brought us some Vietnamese tea. I was sitting there, and they brought me the tea, and I took a sip, and I was like, what? What kind of tea is this? I'd never had tea like this. And I was like, this is so strange. And there was this nun sitting to me, and she took a sip, and she was like, what? And I was like, so it's not just me? And she's like, no, like, what is this tea? And I was like, what's wrong with this tea? And I came to and so the Vietnamese ladies who were serving us, they were like really confused, like, what's wrong? I said, have a taste. Does it really, this Vietnamese tea taste like this? And she takes a sip, and she was like, what? And so she was like, what happened here? So then she's like figured it out. She mixed salt and sugar in a kitchen. So she gave us salted tea. That's the first time I had salted tea, and it was a bit strange, but I must admit. But I said, like, okay, well, maybe we skip this one. But so if you put salt into a teacup, you really taste the salt. But if you take a bucket and you put a little bit of salt, even if it's tea, it's still a little bit salty perhaps. But the further you dilute it, the bigger the pool of water is, the more the more water you put, the more diluted it is, the less you taste the salt. So that's the simile what the Buddha was using, that for the sort of unwholesome actions. You didn't come from a place of compassion and kindness. You did something out of greed, hatred, delusion. But you have to experience those karmas, that the results from those actions. You just have to. Karma doesn't play dice, so to speak. You just get what you deserve, so to speak. You do something and you get it back. You cannot erase it. But don't worry about it too much. So concentrate on the good things you have and dilute it as much as you can. So you have something in the past and you feel not so good about it. Keep doing good things, and that dilutes those things. You have to experience it no matter what. You cannot just sort of pretend nothing happened. You will try. Yeah, maybe she forgot I did that. I'm sure it was fine. No, it's how you feel about it. No matter how much you try to make yourself believe that it's fine, you still experience those things, and that's how karma works. How you feel about it, that's what the karma is. But what we can do is just sort of like, we did something not so wise, but we try to now diluted by doing more and more good, taking care of others. I wasn't caring enough at one point, but now we are trying to lean more and more into that care. And by that, then you start feeling good about yourself, and then those bad results, or yeah, I guess you could say bad, or those things I don't really want to get it back. That gets diluted, and then by that way, the results we get are different, so to speak, because we diluted the karma. Even if we get it back 1-to-1, so to speak, like I said, karma doesn't play dice. There is no randomness in this, in the causes and conditions. Whatever you do, you get it back 1-to-1. You don't get 10 Singapore dollars back if you give 10 Singapore dollars as a donation here. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't get 1-to-1 back, but you get exactly the same amount of happiness what you gave into that donation. So, so that's why it's important to remember that your intention matters the most. So whatever your intention was in that giving, you really contemplate it a lot. There's, by the way, space here if you're sitting in the corner there. But with the doing good, it's all about that intention, how much good intention you put into it, and also how much you contemplate it. So it's not so much about just give and forget about it. Make more of it. Contemplation is actually an important part. We forget quite often. We just think, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. No, it is something. The Buddha said, never underestimate giving. Even the smallest act of kindness. Instead of doing something like, oh, it doesn't matter, nothing. Same we talked about that. Never think about unwholesome, like slightly. Don't think just like small acts of unkindness doesn't matter. I don't know what would be like small act, killing a mosquito. You're just like, I was angry at the mozzie and you just slapped it. But instead you just try to brush it off. It's a very tiny act, but it leaves an imprint in your mind. You're Buddhist, and your precept is not to kill, so you tried not to hurt it. And even if it got hurt because it was sucking you, and you really tried to brush it off, but it got hurt and it didn't survive. At least you were trying to put kindness into effort, that kind of harmlessness into that. So we try to do it. Never think of slightly about small acts of the bad actions or the unwholesome actions or the good actions. Even if you give little, you give a kind word to somebody, encouragement, compassion, donations to the Buddhist Fellowship. Make more of it. It does matter a lot. And the more you contemplate, and that's why the more you contemplate it, the bigger it gets. And that's why Buddhism, we do these things like sharing. We share our merit. The sharing doesn't just, we don't just think about that. The sharing is that we're giving it to our past relatives. I can talk about that a little bit as well, but one thing important there in sharing is that you make it bigger because you think about it. You think about that your mother, your grandmother, or whatever you love one, your sister, and you're giving, and because you're sharing it makes it bigger. But the sharing part it is because you contemplate it in your own mind. That's how it works. It became the giving of a gift became bigger because your mind state was different. So it's quite often asked about how do we do this, like sharing of the merits, as we do it quite often, you give and then the monks do chanting, and does it work? And it was actually asked, the same question was asked from the Buddha, does it work that we share the merits? And the Buddha said, if the conditions are right. Is in the suttas. So the Brahmin, the person who asked the Buddha, is like, then he went through all his list of possibilities. So he said, okay, if my relatives or our relatives are born in this, let's say, Brahma Loka, and then it goes down to Deva Loka, and there's like and then human realm, for example, and it's like, can they receive the merits? And the Buddha said, no, the conditions aren't right. So it's like this person, they either, if they're in these heavenly realms, it's almost like they're too far. They cannot receive it anymore. They can, and same with human. If they get born as a human, they're living their new karma. They're sort of like removed from the possibility. And then the Brahmin ask other things if they're born in below human realm, like where do these beings receive the merit? And like the animal, they get born as an animal, or in a ghost realm, or or in the hell realm, so to speak. And all of the other realms, except this, we don't really know what the realm is, but it's almost like this ghost realm, something which is really close to us. But it's not; they're not too far. Let's say with Buddhism, we have these all kind of realms, and if they would be really far below us, like animal realm, animals are close, but into this kind of hell realm, we could say that they are experiencing something, a lot of suffering. They seem to be too far. But if they're really close to us, and then what's close to us? Perhaps we could say they're ghosts. There's almost like these beings which are so close to us, but they need the merit. They're not happy, but they need the merit to sort of like get out of that realm. It's not really happy realm, but they're very close to us. It's not a hell realm per se, but it's just a lot of dissatisfaction there. And the Buddha said if they get born into that realm, the conditions are right. So it seems to be that there's only some beings which are very associating very close to us humans, that they need the merit and they can receive it. And then the person said, well, what if I don't have any relatives there? And the Buddha said, it's impossible. The time we've been born again and again, it's so vast that it's impossible that you wouldn't have any relatives there. It's impossible. And he says, well, what if there isn't any relatives there? It was like just by accident. He said, well, there's other beings there which are not your relatives who also can receive it, so they can get it. Well, what about if that doesn't exist? And the Buddha said, it doesn't matter. You will receive the merit. By you giving, what matters is that you get that kind of merit, that kind of, what does the merit mean? You get happiness. You get what you deserve. You give happiness, you give kindness. What you get back is that's what you get back. There's an interesting simile also about karma. The Buddha said, very often quoted, is that there's like a stick, and the stick has a light end and a heavy end. So let's say things like it's really thick on the one end and very narrow from the one end. And if you throw that kind of stick up in the air, what end should come down first? The heavy end should come first, right? That's how it works. But the Buddha said, once in a while, the light end might fall down first. Does it mean karma is random? You're being the kindest, most generous person in this lifetime, and when you pass away, you die, your karma place, it's like has to clarify itself, and it comes down, and it lands on the light end first. Well, how does that work now? Again, it goes that simile goes into that idea that we have endless amounts of rebirth. We don't just we weren't just born once before this, or twice. It's easy to understand. It's like, yeah, I was something before this. No, but you were there twice, 3 times, million times. It's countless amounts rebirth exist. And from those lives, the karma, you still experience a karma from those. It gets more and more complicated and more almost watered down the further you go. But still there is some karmic things which we're experiencing now we don't realize. And if you have some heavy karma from the past, you have to experience it. So sometimes it comes into the light end. So you've been a really good person this lifetime, but next you might experience a lot of suffering. It's just because your karma is such. So it does work that way as well. But honestly, the big thing in this life, we just concentrate too much into that bad results. We don't see enough of the goodness. And that's why it's so important to keep coming, places like this where we can meet other kind people around us and who are trying to practice the compassion the best of their abilities. And it keeps uplifting us. It's just too easy to fall into this kind of pattern when we look back into the pattern of ourselves and it's like, I'm not so good, I was like, terrible, you just see the negative sides. It's like coming to Singapore and I was like, I see this like a heavenly realm. Everything is so neat and tidy and perfect weather. In Finland, coming from Finland, we would pay for this kind of weather. You go to a spa, pay good money, you get this for free. And then you talk to Singaporeans, they're like, so you complain so much all the time, they're terrible. How much you have to pay for this and that, and it's like you don't have enough space. And I tell you what, we talked about with some of the people like from Finland. We've been voted the happiest country in the world, right? Not just once or twice, 7 times in a row. I should be there. Instead of living in Australia, I should move back to Finland. It's like live in this happiest country country in the world. I go back there and people are just sort of, I don't know how they measure us. What did they get wrong? Or what are the others doing wrong? And then they look into it, and it's quite interesting, that research. What does make Finland happiest country in the world? It's just because they don't complain a lot. That's the honest truth. That's why Singaporeans, that's why you're not very high, because you keep on complaining. It really is, if you look into that research, how they word those questions, like it is literally questions like, the open-ended questions like, how much would you change in your life? If you would change everything, let's say you would have to put 10. I would want to change everything in my life. Singapore weather sucks. They too much work here. Food is too expensive. It used to be a lot cheaper. Even the coffee is getting expensive. And it's like everything, the healthcare is not good enough. So I would change everything. Number 10. Number 1, you don't want to change anything. Singapore is perfect. Such a nice place, beautiful people. I even like the weather in Singapore. I don't change anything. But you're Singaporeans, you want to change too much. That's why you're not happy. It really is actually quite a Buddhist idea that we try to practice contentment, being easily satisfied. We all the time talking about it, and that's what it boils down to. So as Finns, we're quite Buddhist actually. We content and easily satisfied. They just tell you since you're a kid, just don't complain. And it's ingrained into our psyche, and then they do this research of happiness index. We just happen to score high because of that. They ask those kind of questions. But it is really a Buddhist idea. So think about it. We all have sufferings in our lives. We've been doing a workshop now, like the 3 characteristics of Buddhism in this weekend. And today is the last one. Today we're talking about the anatta part. The first part was the dukkha, the suffering. So we all have suffering, certain kind of sufferings in our lives. It's given. For example, we talked about the kamma, and people always translate, what is kamma? What are the results of the kamma? What does the kamma really mean? For example, or kamma is really something big. So your karma is to get born as human. That really is, if you boil it down, you want to be human. You don't know what it means to be kangaroo. I do know a lot more about kangaroos because I live with them. It's a boring life. I don't want to live like that. I wouldn't like to eat grass every day. I look at them and it's like, geez, is that your life is like that? You're just like, come on. It's like, isn't there anything else in life? But then the kangaroos look at me and they was like, wow, such a nice grass. What is it? And they're just like, they enjoy eating the grass. and they're just like happy there, and they're just like you with your other kangaroo friends. For them, that's the best thing they know. So for them, the karma is to go towards. I'm not sure if I'm telling you porcupines or lying to you, but I feel this is how it works, at least with the kangaroos as well, that they associate themselves with the kangaroos, and that's where their mind goes. They do have consciousness, it's like this kind of mind. They all have a stream of consciousness. But same as humans, we have that kind of stream. Every one of us, we have an individual stream. That's what makes you. And that's how it makes the karma work. You have to have an individual stream of consciousness. And that's what you experience. You experience that karma. So us, the big thing is we want to be humans. And it seems to be, again, it's a bit of an anecdotal evidence, but it seems to be that where we die, that's where we seem to be going towards. So you pass away in Singapore and you go towards Singapore. So be careful if you go to holidays to Finland or something like that. You might get born there. And sometimes I wonder what happened to me. Why on earth did I get born in Northern Finland? Something wrong about my karma. But the karma is sort of like, that's how it works. You associate with something, and it's like these big things. So we associate being human. We don't know really what it means to be a kangaroo or dinosaur. There's not too many of those around anymore. But that's what we go towards. And there's what you get from getting born as a human. What do we get? Human body. We get sicknesses. It just comes with having this package. We age. We wish we were 21 still, but we're not. Most of us. There's some even younger ones here. They wish they would be 21 because they could be deciding for themselves. Old age, sickness, death comes from having a human body. It's unavoidable. And we see it all around us. All of us, we have to experience this. And because of that, the compassion arises. And because of that, we start leaning away. We turn away from the suffering. Happiness doesn't make us turn away from the rebirth process. It just doesn't work that way. If something is happy, we always go towards that. It's the suffering part, which is like I said, what the first workshop in this weekend is. That's what makes us turn away from this samsara, the cycle rebirth. If we just enjoy ourselves and it's fine, and we get enlightened at the same time, it doesn't work that way. What made the Buddha go forth? Why did the Buddha leave? The sort of what became a homeless, leave his home life. It's not like he was trying to find this ultimate wisdom, so to speak, or some kind of esoteric teaching. He almost had his karma was such that it made him turn away from the homeless life. He couldn't resist anymore. He saw the suffering everywhere, and he wondered that there must be an end to this. There must be something more than that to life. So he had this kind of hunch that it's more to life than this, what we see here. But really what pushed him away was that suffering part. And that's what happens, and it is almost sad. As I was we're Buddhists. We're just everything is suffering. It's so sad. But what we actually turning away is from this. We're turning away from suffering. We're going towards more and more compassion. We're going more towards contentment. That is really, no matter where we go in life, it's you have this beautiful place in Singapore. You can still be content with whatever the little mistakes they have made here in Singapore. Tiny little bit. Don't concentrate too much on those. Yes, the coffee is expensive. I know. It used to be cheaper. Don't concentrate too much on it. You take these little things. Try to concentrate more on the contentment. Go towards that. Because things are what they are. We have a human body. What do we get from that? Old age, sickness, and death. It's given. But no matter what happens, You can be content with it. The grasping part, we're always talking about this grasping. You're holding on to something which is actual suffering. So try to release that grasping a little bit. And again, it sounds negative, because what we actually putting effort quite often is this kind of ideas of like love. Romantic love is something we want to have, for example. It's very important. Try to tell any teenagers like, oh no, don't have any boyfriend or girlfriend. They're like, yep, okay, I don't think I'm going to the Buddhist center again. It's impossible to stop boys and girls and, like all these other, whatever is your preference, like to go towards something you want to have a companion. Impossible. Even kangaroos, I can see them, the season comes, you cannot stop them having, trying to find the other kangaroos. It's inherently built into in this realm we live. We live in a realm of 5 senses. This is what we have here. So we always go towards that. But we learn to work with it. The interesting thing is that once you really, you start realizing how the world works, and like I said, the compassion really arises from the realization that we all suffer. We almost all you could say that we all in the same boat. So we have to care about each other. I gave a simile yesterday, and this comes from Ajahn Brahm's teacher, and Ajahn Chah gave the simile of a cup, and he said if the cup is made out of metal, even thicker than this thermos, and if it's really sturdy, you don't have to worry about it. You just throw it around. You have you drink your water and just throw away the cup. It won't break. It's metal cup. It's really sturdy. I don't have to worry about it. But if the cup is made out of something fragile, it's nice porcelain china, you have to be very carefully. You put it away carefully. You wash it carefully. You take care of it, because it can break. We know it can break. And that's the thing. We all know we can break. We know all the people around us can break. We have to be taking care of them carefully. That's the point. We know inside of us we have this kind of suffering. So, because we're brave enough to look at the suffering inside of us, we know that everybody else around us has that. Compassion arises. We know we have sicknesses in our body. I certainly do. I know there's a lot of things, and they want to give me more and more medication, this and that. It's like high blood pressure, great. Then you have this kind of like, oh, you eat too much fat. Well, it's not my fault. It's people feeding me. Too much salt. Again, why do you put so much salt into my food? Try to feed me healthy foods, and then I take the unhealthy ones. So you understand as like, this is my body's like that, and everybody else's bodies are like that. We're brave enough to look into it. We see the reality as it is. We don't try to just mask it. If you keep sort of masking the life too much, that you're not brave enough to look at it, to see it through the right lenses, it's almost like we can distract ourselves all our lives. We can just go through this life of a movie, which is not real reality per se, and we don't have enough compassion. We don't realize how much effort we need to put into the kindness, how much these little acts of kindness and goodness matter, and how much these acts, small acts of unwholesome acts, bad acts, so to speak, matter as well. What a difference it makes if you keep diluting your good things. So also think about it this way: if you have a lot of good things in your life, a lot of goodness around it, so don't keep diluting it away. And that's what you're doing when you concentrate on the little things, what the husband does, or the wife. You concentrate a little bit too much on the ones you shouldn't be concentrating on. Same with your own karma. you concentrate too much on the unwholesome things, and also you might be diluting your good things away. So it's the same way. If you have something sweet, you have sugar in your cup, in my coffee, I can taste it because there's a lot of sugar. You put a lot of kindness into the. Don't put sugar, by the way, in my coffee. But if you put sugar, you can really taste it in that cup of coffee. It's not really sweet. But if you put the kindness into a big bucket, it's not so sweet anymore. You diluted it now with your unwholesome acts. So it works that way as well. You can dilute your goodness away. So never do that. Every little drop matters. The smallest act of unkind words, they are dropping in there. You're diluting all the good things. So make sure you keep trying to keep dropping into good acts in there. And it doesn't just work in this lifetime. We keep leaning towards finding the Dhamma again. We keep leaning towards finding a good rebirth. There's no ultimate happiness, no matter where you look. Unfortunately, you're in the wrong place if you try to find a retirement home here. I'm not going to give it to you. You will always have these things. We are going again towards the human rebirth. We are going towards that. You can think about like how does the rebirth process work. For me, the easiest way to think about this is that I was me 1 second ago, and now I'm here again, and I will be 1 second from here, it's me again. 1 minute from here, I will be me. Half an hour, it was just me continuing. And the same goes into the past. 1 second ago, I was me. Minute ago, I was me. 5 minutes ago, this morning when I woke up, when I was sleeping last night, it was me sleeping. It wasn't somebody else in the bed. No, it wasn't. No, okay, yeah, it was me. Same like tomorrow morning when you wake up after you sleep. It's not somebody else dreaming your dreams. It's you dream your dreams, and then you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror, it's you who's looking at. There's this cohesion. So same way with this rebirth process, the easiest way for me to understand how the rebirth process works is that it's just you continuing. It's not like there's one moment where you're alive on this side, you come to a point, and then you die, and then you're dead. It's not like there's somebody else there then continuing. It's not like there's a moment on point in the future for you, and then somebody else continues from there. It doesn't work that way. It's just you continuing. The same way you are every second, you just continuing. The same way the continuation works on that death. It's not a moment, it's just process. You start slipping away from this world. And from there, you continue and you come into the point. And that it's interesting that we talked about the karma a little bit, and what happens when you start moving away, you start leaving the body behind, and you're continuing on this kind of on that same process. It's just you continuing, just like you are now, even probably the same clothes. And you take the process continue as you, and your karma is that you have to experience your karma. So it's that thing where other people, other religions and other like mystics have explained it that or in this near-death experiences, people when they come back, they explain it that they say that you see all your actions, not just from your own perspective, but how others have experienced it. So you did something nice, you feel how they felt about it. You cared about them. And if you do something bad, you feel how that person felt. You cannot escape it. So that's the point of escaping karma. You cannot escape because you experience it as they experienced it while you did the action. And then so you go into this kind of, you're in this kind of space, so to speak, or in this time, the karma has to clarify itself. So you go through all of those actions, the pot filling, every drop matters. You go through those actions and it sort of clarifies which direction you're going again. It's just you have to go through that process. This is not really in the suttas, but this is how it seems to be working. So it's not like you're dead and then the rebirth process, like you start getting born again. It seems to be that there is a gap between those moments. And then depending on how much movement there is, how much craving, we talk about craving, is really, that's what starts the process. That starts the process again. So again, there is craving to be a human. You might spend the time before the craving really becomes really big, but eventually starts going towards that. You just cannot help it. You forget all the suffering. And then they give you this document and you need to sign. You want to be a human again? It's like, yes, sign me in. You forgot to read the small print. Read the small print next time. What do you get? Rebirth. Oh no. What does it say? Sickness? Well. Old age? Well, I don't know. Death? I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad. Sign me in. I'm going. That's what happens. We forget. But then slowly you're coming to the Buddhist Fellowship here and you keep listening Dhamma. What you get repulsed is suffering. I just don't want to do this. I'm sick of suffering. That's what gets you out of the samsara. Not you thinking something. It's like, I'm going to think my way out of this. It just doesn't work that way. You cannot think yourself out of this. Like I said, if I go to any of the teens and said like, oh, hang on, no need to get, boyfriends, girlfriends, any other, like, they cannot think themselves out of that. They have the desire to have companions. You cannot stop them. It's not teens. I know it's going to be even aunties and uncles here want to have love. You cannot think yourself out of love. It's just we have these feelings, innate feelings inside of it. It's baked into the system. We humans. But what happens is like you start seeing the suffering in there, in this realm, slowly, by just associating with teachers, hearing the Dhamma basically, and you start getting repulsed of the suffering. And slowly you become, your tree keeps leaning towards the Nibbana. And that's one of my favorite suttas. I always like to tell that is, Buddha's cousin was dying when he was worried what's going to happen to him. And so he sent the messengers to the Buddha because he couldn't go and see him anymore. So the Buddha came and said, what's happening? And they said, look, I'm worried, what's going to happen to me? And the Buddha said, well, don't worry, Mahanama. It's like if you think about tree, and the tree is leaning towards west. It has a nice lean, and then there's 4 strong men, they come and they cut down the tree from the root. Which way the tree will fall to? Will it fall north, east, south, or west? Yes, well, there's a lot of smart people here. West. And the Mahanama said the same thing. Of course, it will fall to west because it's leaning towards west. And the Buddha said the same way. Yes, don't worry, Mahanama. The same way. If you have respect, respect or this kind of like confidence, you're just sort of. Anyways, I explain it. So if you have respect and confidence towards Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and you have your sila as a 4th. You're always leaning towards Nibbana. You're always leaning towards finding the Dhamma, so to speak. Because what's going to happen? You get born randomly like me. I'm Finland, Northern Finland. It's like, what? What happened here? How do I find the Dhamma? But then you hear it somewhere. Somebody teaches you that. This life or the next. And you recognize it. This sounds right. I've been looking for this. I didn't even know I was looking for it. But you hear it? And then you go towards it. And the tree keeps leaning and leaning. Every life you start keeping leaning towards that. Eventually it will fall down, and that's the Nibbana, the end of all things. And then the idea of those things where you have that kind of like a respect or confidence towards the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, I like to explain it because to really, so you start understanding that the Buddha was just a teacher, he was a human and all that, but he realized something. with the Dhamma is important with the teachings is that you really try to understand it for yourself. What was he trying to teach? How does the Buddha's teachings work? How do I apply it? It's not just mere doing pujas. It's not enough. You need to sort of reason things. Like I said, contemplation is part of it. You develop compassion. You put it into these things in action. It's not enough just to sort of be Buddhist by name. You didn't use it enough. You need to use the teachings. And that's what makes it bigger. The more you use them, the more you lean towards that. The more lean is there. The more you actually, that you have to use the teachings. So it's part of actually the job of a teacher. We try to inspire you. And obviously you inspire us as well, coming and, taking care of us. And that's part of the reason, like what the Sangha is there. Having respect towards the Sangha is, you realize that the Sangha is the one who's keep this thing going for so long. Buddha's gone, he's not anymore there, the teachings are left. We have respect towards the Buddha to start it. The teachings are there, we need to use it. And the Sangha is the vessel, which is like a vessel where it holds water. The Buddha gave a simile of the Sangha. It's like people ask, why do you teach everybody? And the Buddha said, well, everybody needs this teaching, but he gave a simile of like a water pot. He said the Sangha is the pot which holds the water. And then it's the people who really practice, who are really interested, like the ones all of you. You are like the water pot, but it's slowly seeping out. It's not really holding as well as the Sangha. And then he said, I even teach the people who really don't want to really even hear, or they don't really put in the use. And it's like a water pot which has cracks. You put it in, it holds a little while, but it seeps out. But so the Buddha said, it's like, I need to teach everybody. And then there's another simile in that same sutta. It's like a field. Sangha is the fertile field, so to speak. That's where you put the most of the seeds, because you would do the same. You know something is fertile. You would cast the seeds in there. And then and then the lay people who really practice, that's a field which is perhaps not so fertile, but you seed it, but you don't put so much effort into it. And then even the fields which are really not fertile at all, even they need to hear it, and sometimes something comes up. Even the wisdom arises, even in the people who just happen to come across Dhamma somewhere, just a little bit. There's wisdom arises. They understand compassion is important, so there's seeds coming to fruition from there as well. But that thing with the Sangha, you realize that like it's important to have Sangha. We need to respect the Sangha. We need to take care of it. And that's part of that, the three things you need to respect and have confidence towards. So there's this kind of nice act of kindness. Obviously we worked as a dual thing where we have monks and nuns, and then we have your laymen and laywomen, and we work together. We need you, and you need us as well. So we work together, and it's a nice, beautiful, beautiful part how the Buddhism work. But the fourth thing, which is the sila, it's really important, and this really goes into that drop by drop the water pot is filling. Don't just think that your sila is your 5 precepts. It's not enough. Because if you could sort of like find loopholes if they're there if you want it, or it doesn't cover everything per se. But you have to think about sila as like adi sila is the Pali word, which perhaps here is good to use. It's this sila which encompasses everything. It's not just like 5 precepts. It's this act of overall kindness. So you can think of sila as like kindness of the heart. You have a good heart. So whatever you say, it comes more and more from the kindness of your heart. It's part of your sila, in this higher sila, in the bigger thing. Whatever your bodily actions you do, sure, in the 5 precepts is mentioned, perhaps like don't drink alcohol and those kind of things, but it encompasses like a bigger thing. Our bodily actions come from more and more from compassion, kindness. We're leaning towards that. That becomes a bigger thing. And same with your mind. You're leaning towards more and more compassionate thinking. Your mind leans towards that. And always remember, it starts from yourself. You need to be kinder and more compassionate towards your own thinking mind. That's where it starts. Like metta. You can do metta in many different ways. It's not doesn't work one way, or compassion is really nice way to do things as well, like look things through compassionate eyes. But start towards it. Start it with yourself. One of my teachers, Ajahn Mudito, who I lived in Melbourne a few years now, and he said this quite nice thing, that it's like money in a bank. If you have money in a bank, you can give, right? Otherwise, if you don't have money in a bank, you go into debt. It's the same with metta. If you have metta in your metta bank, it keeps flowing out. It's very natural. It starts coming, that metta bank, or compassion, karuna. It starts flowing out from you very naturally because you have it in the bank. Otherwise, you might give something which is not really compassionate or loving kindness. You keep giving, giving, giving. You're not really giving loving kindness. You're going into debt, and also what you're giving, it's not really like pure loving kindness because you didn't realize what it feels inside of you. You haven't developed enough compassion towards yourself. You don't realize what it feels. Once you start seeing suffering on others, you start all in the same boat. Compassion arises. You start feeling inside of you, this is what I like to be. This is what the compassion feels inside of me. This is what loving kindness feels inside of me. Then when you give, it is actually you giving that. It's not stained with other feelings or greed, hatred. Sometimes we give, but we're giving from, and we're wishing something in return. We wish they would recognize us because, wow, look at me, I'm giving. I'm such a great person. It's still better to do it that way. Always give. Never look down. Never look down on giving, even the smallest thing, even if it's sort of there's a little bit of stain on that. But try to develop the loving kindness, compassion towards yourself. You see how much you're suffering yourself. And when you start seeing the suffering in you, compassion arises. So don't be afraid to look inside. There's suffering there, but that is the start of wisdom. So never underestimate small acts of kindness. Never. And never look down even the small acts of unkindness. Always lean towards giving goodness to others, to yourself, and always try to underestimate your bad things. It's not so bad. Lean towards the good things. Be content and easily satisfied no matter what happens in life. And I think that's enough for today. Thank you so much.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Maybe we'll take one question from the floor before we go into sharing our merits. Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Bante, for the great sharing that you had today.
Sure.
My question is that, and I'm not sure whether it's related to this. During the Buddha's time, we always read about so and so suddenly become enlightened and become a Surapa and become an Arahant and all that. But nowadays we don't seem to hear much of it now.
Wow, it could be here in Singapore, maybe someone.
So how does your teaching just on this subject about that fit into this kind of trend, or is it not related?
Okay, so that we don't see the enlightened ones. Is that what you're asking? That how does it relate to that we don't see enlightened ones?
Yeah. So all this we are doing now, but we don't seem to hear. They did this, so we become enlightened. Whereas during the Buddha's day, that they do this and become enlightened. See, so
how do you know who's enlightened and who's not?
It's not the,
What?
the
Who are you?
Buddha text,
Are you going around and asking everybody?
No, I'm saying that in the text, they do mention who will do it, but now we don't seem to hear anything.
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
right. No, absolutely, sure. Okay. So one part of it is obviously there's like I said, it's so difficult to. They had so much inspiration at the time of the Buddha. Obviously, the Buddha was there. He was really pushing them along. You know, like teachers are not at the high caliber as they were in those days. I must admit, my teachers are, but maybe not me. But the ones who really are enlightened, it's more like you have to observe them from the distance whether they are enlightened or not. It's hard to really know who's not and who is and who's not, because certain personality traits, for example, could continue, or they do continue. You are you, so to speak. If you're a jovial, jokey person, that personality trait continues even if you become enlightened. You just continue as a jovial, jokey person. It's not, but you just don't have your greed. You don't have greed anymore. You don't have hatred, and then the desire for the self. For the five senses is done. So it's really difficult to know who's enlightened. It really is, because you just have to observe them from a long time. And it even comes from the suttas, and that's what the Buddha recommended. And that if you really want to see who's enlightened or not, you need to maybe live with them or observe them on daily basis. And if you start seeing that they're lacking certain traits, then you're just like, oh, I have confidence. But and sure, it's for us monks, our precepts prevent us telling anything which goes into the deeper meditation, even the deep meditation stages. We just cannot talk about it. And it's a shame. Ajahn Brahm always says it's a shame. Like you try to hint it, and he's a master of hinting. If you know what to listen, and he's quite open these days. Actually, he's a really good hinting. So they do exist, and I can tell you that with a high confidence, after living with Ajahn Brahm for 15 years, there's a lot of things where I can observe that he's certain personality traits which normal people have, he doesn't have them. So I have a lot of confidence that these kind of people exist. But whether they exist or not, if you keep practicing, you can start seeing in your own life that certain kind of sufferings are less. Even for me, after I don't see a much difference in a year or 2 years, but after 15 years being in monastery, I can see that I start turning away. There's still certain things which pull me in. I'm not talking about girls too much, but maybe I am. But I like to, I'm a jovial and jokey person, but there's a certain things which is like I can start seeing that the practice is working. So that's good enough. Yeah, the suffering is less. I can start seeing that I'm turning away from the suffering, and it's good. It's good enough. So even for all of us, whether you are enlightened or I'm enlightened or whoever, it doesn't matter so much. Like what matters for me is just like I'm turning away from suffering little by little, and that's good enough. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Let's say 3 sadhus, and then we will go into dedication of merits. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So for dedication of merits today, we would like to request Ajahn to lead us in that. And we would also like to request our members here to bring to mind Mr. Teo Lai Singh. He's one of our BF member, and he volunteers with the prison service as well. So in memory of Mr. Teo Lai Singh, let's all have him in our mind when we dedicate the merits.
Okay, so we chant together. And not just, you can also think of your loved ones who you want to share the merits from today, and your past relatives. Akasata cha pummata deva naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditva chirang rakantu loka sasanang Akasata cha bhummata Naga Mahitika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Dhamma Desanang Akasata cha bhummata Deva Naga Mahidika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Dangvarang Etavata cha amhehi Sambadam punya sambadang Sabbe deva anumodantiu Sabba sambatti siddhya Etavata cha amhehi Sambadam punya sambadang Sabbe bhuta anumodantu Sabba sambatti siddhya Etavata cha amhehi Sambadam punya sambadang Sabbe satta anumodantu Sabba sambatti siddhya. Very good. Okay, then we do idamo nyona tinangoti 3 times together as well. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idam me natinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good, well done.
Let's pay 3 respect to Ajahn.